Sup, you beautiful bastards. Hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. Buckle up, hit that like button, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is it turns out that bullying works. I'm kidding. That's not the point of this story. Although, if I really think about it, everything that I have is in part thanks to just shitty people who were horrible to me and me wanting to be better than them. But no, still, don't be a little prick. The actual first story I wanted to briefly talk about was Sonic the Hedgehog. And if you don't remember, when the first poster and the first trailer came out, the reaction in general was just, overall, we hate it. Thank you so much. It's in the trash. With people saying that the animation style is horrible, those teeth are so creepy. And I mean, the level of negativity connected to this launch, there aren't many comparisons. Then it was announced that the studio heard fans, they would rework Sonic, and today they released a brand new trailer, and oh my god, it actually genuinely looks so much better. I mean, just looking at these side-by-side comparisons, it really makes you wonder how they got so far with the first version. You know, it's been a little while. I had forgotten what a dumpster fire the first animation was. And so with this, I want to say, one, good job to the studio actually listening to fans. Obviously, it's in your best interest. You want to make money. And then also, two, congratulations and props to the VFX team that were able to rework, I guess it looks like the entire movie. I can't even imagine how much work went into that. I hope that there is a featurette on this. But I guess also to attach a question to this story, if you're a movie lover, do you think this is a good or bad situation? Maybe a mixture of both? Or do you see this as good, like a company listening to the community and thus creating a better product? Or do you maybe think that it might be a bad thing because this, with Sonic, it's a unique situation and it might encourage toxic behavior if fans see something else they don't like in the future for other properties? Where do you land on this? Personally, I think it's a unique situation and I'm happy, but I'd love to know what you think. Then, very briefly, I'm gonna include this so people stop sending me this story. You may have seen headlines or people tweeting about Kylie Jenner sending a cease and desist to a small little business. You know, with Kylie Jenner, there was that Rise and Shine meme with her singing.
Rise and shine.
She took advantage of it, ended up selling Rise and Shine shirts. She also reportedly applied for the trademark. But this news around the cease and desist said that Kylie Jenner did this to a company that was selling Rise and Shine shirts before the meme was even a thing. So a lot of people got really angry. Can you believe that Kylie Jenner is doing this? And it turns out she didn't. You had some places running with headlines like, Kylie Jenner denies sending Rise and Shine cease and desist letters, then showing Kylie Jenner's tweets, guys, please don't believe everything you read. I have not sent any Rise and Shine cease and desist letters. Rise and Shine was an unexpected moment. I had a lot of fun with it and I have laughed so hard seeing everyone's memes since the video came out a few weeks ago. There are no lawsuits, no cease and desist letters. Happy Sunday. And also, the reason I think a headline like that is not enough, right? Because it sounds like there was an allegation, there's a denial. Literally the company, this Australian business that was said to be the focal point, they ended up having to issue a statement saying, you may have seen cased on the news regarding Kylie Jenner and the Rise and Shine slogan. We are in no way cooperating in this drama and will be closing the website down until this all blows over. We currently do not and have never had a problem with Kylie Jenner. And I mean, so that's it. If this was legitimately a story of like a super mega rich person harassing a little guy, we would have jumped on it. But when we were looking through the story, it just looked like it originated from some random Twitter account that had 8,000 followers. Yeah, in general, you know, people aren't perfect. I'm not perfect. We need to always try and be skeptical about things, consider the sources, ideally get better information, and then go from there. And then let's briefly talk about the US Supreme Court. One of these stories still developing, the other kind of a done deal. One, we saw the Supreme Court today turn down an appeal from the gun industry. And as far as the specifics here, this involved a state-level lawsuit against Remington Arms, a gun manufacturer, by parents of children who died in the 2012 Sandy Hook shooting. According to reports, Remington Arms was seeking to be protected from the lawsuit, which alleges that the company marketed its military-style rifles for, quote, use in assaults against human beings. And this case is reportedly a notable test of the reach of a 2005 law passed by Congress to protect firearms manufacturers from being held liable for crimes committed by gun purchasers. The lower court prevented the family's lawsuit, but then a Connecticut higher court ruled 4-3 that they could. That eventually, of course, went to the Supreme Court, and we got the result we saw today. And so today, with the Supreme Court declining to review the ruling, the lawsuit can proceed. And that's a distinct thing to note. Things can move forward, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the parents will win. And the other notable situation in the Supreme Court's hands is DACA. Right, in case you forgot, the Trump administration made a decision to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, right? A program that allowed undocumented immigrants that were brought to this country as children to stay here. And in the past, while Donald Trump used kind of nicer language to describe dreamers.
We love the dreamers. We love everybody. The dreamers are terrific.
Because you have these incredible kids, in many cases, not in all cases. In some of the cases, they're having DACA and they're gang members and they're drug dealers too. But you have some absolutely incredible kids. I would say mostly. They were brought here in such a way. It's a very, very tough subject. We are going to deal with DACA with heart. You know, I love these kids. I love kids. I have kids and grandkids.
We saw him today tweet that many are no longer very young, also saying that they are far from angels and that some are very tough, hardened criminals, which I will say, to me, seems like textbook fear-mongering from Trump. It also doesn't completely add up. Literally, one of the requirements for DACA recipients to renew is that they have no criminal record. But the point with this story isn't Donald Trump today. It is in the hands of the Supreme Court. And we had the justices hearing arguments today. We saw protests outside. Now, the Supreme Court is not expected to hand down a ruling on this case until spring of next year. There are also reports and experts saying it's likely that the Supreme Court, with its conservative lean now, will agree with the Trump administration. Notably, according to reports and experts, there are three potential outcomes. As Axios explains, one, the Supreme Court could agree with the lower courts and reject Trump's rationale for ending DACA, forcing the White House to come up with a different reason or give up and let the program continue. Two, it could say that just as President Obama created DACA on his own, Trump can end it on his own. Or three, it could agree with the administration's argument that DACA is illegal, which would prevent a future administration from ever reviving it. Which, on that note, Trump said in a tweet, if Supreme Court remedies with overturn, a deal will be made with Dems for them to stay. But also regarding that, if it's like previous Trump offers around DACA, it seems like it's going to be an exchange of some sort. Or something along those same lines as, well, we'll protect the dreamers, but maybe there's more border funding. But ultimately, for now, we're gonna have to just wait to see what happens here. But from that, I wanna share some stuff I love today in Awesome, brought to you by Keeps. And I always mention this, it was news to me when I learned that 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time that they're 35. And so Keeps helps you stop hair loss before it's too late with their scientific and affordable approach. The treatments are up to 90% effective at reducing and stopping further hair loss, and they say that prevention is key. And you don't have to go broke to avoid going bald. Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products that are out there. So some of you may have actually tried them before, but probably never at this price. And actually, on that note, treatments start at just $10 a month, and for a limited time, you beautiful bastards can get your order for 50% off. So if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/DeFranco, or just click that link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. And the first bit of awesome today is about something that's not awesome. If you're looking for more news after today's show, we also put out an extra bonus news deep dive. This specifically facing a problem around veteran burial. So a rough topic, but a spotlight on it and more for you to learn. Then we had the Screen Junkies giving us Frozone versus Elsa. We had the official Pokemon channel teasing us with a little more content around Pokemon Sword and Shield. We got the international trailer for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, a movie I can't wait to cry to. We had Binging with Babish giving us Tiramisu from Superbad. Wired gave us a sleep scientist explaining one concept and 5 levels of difficulty. We had David Dobrik going undercover on Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter. And the final bit of awesome was something that I watched that just moved me. There's this amazing video where this man essentially kind of made a video portrait of his daughter from birth to 20 years old. And he time lapses the footage and you see this person grow into an adult over the course of 5 minutes. It's just beautiful. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, really anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then finally, let's talk about these massive fires raging in Australia. Now, if you've seen any of the headlines, you may have seen words like unprecedented, catastrophic, ferocious. And so let's talk about what these fires actually look like, what this means for people in Australia, and why you might have heard people also bringing up climate change. Right, so these fires that we're talking about today actually started as brush fires back in September. And kind of generally speaking, fires are expected around this time of year in Australia. This because the country's in the southern hemisphere. Right, so it's actually spring in Australia right now. But main point, the fires start in early September, and within a few days, we see reports of more than 50 fires burning across the northeastern state of Queensland. And at that same time, firefighters recorded more than 20 buildings burned, this including a historic lodge in a national park, which after that lodge burned down, you had one fire inspector saying, "We've never seen this before," and recorded history. Fire weather has never been as severe this early in spring. And also adding that this fire may be a sign for worse things to come. And that is exactly what we're seeing. And this is because Australia is experiencing an extremely dry season. You have Australia's east coast having seen below average rainfall over the past 2 years. And that is a massive problem considering this is where most of Australia's rainforests are. The drought also reportedly got so bad, in fact, that in September, one town was issuing emergency water restrictions of 100 liters a day. Additionally, we've also seen higher winds blowing through the country. Just today, in fact, meteorologists said that winds reached around 43 miles per hour, with wind gusts reportedly hitting 60 miles per hour. Right? And so with this dry season, these high winds, it's the perfect setting for a horrible fire. And what we ended up seeing is that as of Friday, there are now reports that more than 150 properties have been destroyed. The death toll rose to 3. Over the weekend, thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes and more are being warned that they might have to evacuate. Authorities are now saying that this week could be the most dangerous bushfire week this nation has ever seen. Yesterday, we saw the state of New South Wales issue a week-long state of emergency, and that includes a total fire ban. About 600 schools have also shut down. You have planes spraying down homes and trees with flame retardant. And just today alone, you had experts comparing the days Australia's forecast to the 2009 Black Saturday bushfires in Victoria, which killed 173 people. In Queensland, which also declared a state of emergency, we're seeing reports of 55 fires. Also in New South Wales alone, we're seeing reports of more than 85 fires, with 46 of those not contained. Those fires also stretching along about 620 miles of the coastline. There's also concern that a cold front could rapidly change the direction of these fires, and that's actually potentially even more devastating, because you also have Sydney in New South Wales, and some of the fires are reportedly within 9 miles of the city centre. They're already reaching the suburbs. We've also seen photos of smoke blanketing the skyline. In fact, the greater Sydney area is now under a catastrophic level warning, which is the highest level warning for fires. It has also never been used in Sydney since it was implemented after the Black Saturday fires. And at this point, this is where I would love to put some sort of bow on the situation. But here's the thing, scientists have pegged climate change as the reason for why Australia's fire season keeps growing longer and more intense. And those scientists also predict that Australia's brush fires will only continue to become more frequent and more intense as climate change worsens. Also saying that Australia in particular is in danger here. And this because of its vast interior desert combined with rapidly heating ocean currents. You know, you have Joel Gurgis, a climate scientist and writer from the Australian National University, saying, "There's a human fingerprint on the temperature increase since 1950. All the weather patterns are occurring in a planet that is warming and warming because of human activity." And adding, we're really missing the opportunity to prepare for future life in Australia. It's going to be a lot warmer, and we're going to see a lot of prevalence of extreme fire conditions. The further we kick the can down the road and avoid these conversations, we're really missing the opportunity to get the Australian public ready for what is upon us. Also, on top of all of that, Australia's primary energy consumption is still dominated by coal. According to the Australian government, the country still relies on coal for 40% of its energy. It's also the largest coal exporter in the world. As we touched on the last time we talked about the Paris Agreement, it's also fallen behind on its promise to reduce emissions. Also, because of that, we've seen dramatic protests over the last couple of months. And as far as the government responds to this situation, while speaking with ABC Radio National yesterday, you had Deputy Prime Minister Michael McCormack denying that these fires are related to climate change.
We've had fires in Australia since time began. And what people need now is a little bit of sympathy, understanding, and real assistance. They need help. They need shelter.
But why is it wrong to ask those questions?
Well, they don't need the ravings of some pure, enlightened and woke capital city greenies at this time when they're trying to save their homes.
However, you also had the mayor of a town in New South Wales biting back, saying it's not a political thing. It is a scientific fact that we are going through climate change. I think Michael McCormack needs to read the science. And ultimately, that's where we are with this situation. I mean, as far as my opinion, I feel exhausted by those that deny man-made climate change. Also, specifically looking at Australia, it looks like a political failure. And that's not me like just sharing my feelings. In fact, as these catastrophic brush fires rage, we saw a brand new report called the G20 Brown to Green Report, described as the world's most comprehensive review of G20 climate action, developed by experts from 14 research organizations and NGOs from the majority of the G20 countries. They found that Australia's response to climate change was one of the worst in the G20, with a co-author of the report saying Australia is behind on climate action in nearly every dimension. Australia's emissions are increasing and there's virtually no policy in place to reduce them, and adding the leadership of the country is effectively telling lies about their performance and contradicting their own government's information. The country is led by politicians who in one way or another deny either the science or are de facto denying it and actively and willfully opposing or obstructing climate policies. And what's crazy is the report also found that there's like a monetary reason to care, because reportedly it found that extreme weather events such as those currently afflicting Australia were costing G20 countries about 207 billion Australian dollars or 142 US annually. But despite all the science, all the evidence, we still have politicians in 2019 that, at least in Australia, are the fucking literal version of the "this is fine" meme. That's supposed to be a fucking metaphor, not real life. But hey, that's the situation, that's the story. And that's it for today's show. Let us know your thoughts on any of the stories in the comments down below. Also, if you like this video, let us know. Hit that like button. Also, if you're new here, if you want more of these dives into the news during your week, hit that subscribe button. Definitely tap that bell to turn on notifications. Also, if you're looking for more news to watch, we put out an extra deep dive today. You can click or tap right there to watch that. Or maybe you just missed yesterday's show, you want to catch up, you can click or tap right there to watch that too. But with that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.